Recording to the cloud. Okay, sweet. And we should have people use the microphone, right, to make sure we get good sound. Yeah.
I love how none of my team has joined me. They're just gonna let me
Get up here. Get up here. The rest of the team. Alex, get up here. Come on, guys.
Yay, hooray. Amazing. Okay. So what we made, oh no, that's not what I want to do. Oh, don't look at that. It's going slow. Okay, so our tool is called Proxy Edit. This is a play on having a proxy offer edits, but it's also an approximate edit. And so the use case is to simulate feedback from a variety of different audience members in order to support journalists in creating robust persuasive stories. And so why do we look specifically, we're looking specifically at personas, developing synthetic personas. Journalists crave input from a variety of viewpoints, and LLMs are uniquely adept at creating synthetic personas that can serve as proxies for feedback. We've seen this in other domains, in certain design domains, so why not bring it into journalism? So we worked with actual drafts of real journalistic stories. In this case, Alex was very generous about supplying drafts of Planet Money stories. We did testing of the relevance of that feedback in terms of providing different angles, useful input, actionable input at various stages of the editing process. We used Mixtral, Replicate, and Streamlit in terms of technical. Let's see if I can get this demo running. So here's what it looks like. So what I'm going to do, so this is a early draft of a Planet Money story. I'm going to drop it in here. So one thing we found is that getting a bit of a summary and an outline and we also found that the LLM was very good at creating interesting, vivid characters that provide relevant feedback. So in this case, the story is about the ongoing use of pagers as communication tools in medical contexts, and how this is kind of an antiquated, seemingly antiquated piece of technology, and attempts to update it failed for very interesting reasons. And so you can see the kind of personas that the LLM is generating are very relevant to the topic of this story. So from there, we can ask it for feedback. We need to kind of finesse the prompts a little to get it to actually use the same personas in the feedback. But what we did was make sure that they were coming in with a critical perspective. We found general feedback was a bit too soft, not very actionable, and then offering specific suggestions for improvement that often referenced particular beats in the story that were generated with that outline. One of the pieces of feedback we got was that general kind of commentary on the story as a whole was not very actionable. So those were some of the things that we messed around with. Anybody else from my team want to add thoughts or comments? Is that, yeah, I wasn't timing, so that's what we got.
Thank you very much. Thank you. We're gonna, well, there's no formal judging panel or anything like that, but if anybody has any questions for them that you'd like to ask, please, yeah. Any questions? No? Okay. They've solved it. Yes. All right. Next up, interview. Sajin Park, Matthew Danbury, Luel Sala, Velvet McNeil.
interview team. Our tool is called Interview. Our team members, I'm Sajin, Matthew, Lowell, and Velvet. Couldn't have done this without you guys. It was so much fun. So to get right into it, Interview is an opinionated AI-powered text editor optimized to enhance journalist productivity during their drafting stage by automatically summarizing, synthesizing, and suggesting relevant interview data. Three pillars of our product or our tool is to support, enhance, and really empower journalist work. It's really not to replace. So let me set the stage. Imagine that you're a reporter working on a story about issues in algorithmic fairness. You've conducted 3 interviews, have audio recordings of files, notes. You also actually attended an expert panel of AI data scientists at Columbia, and you recorded a presentation. So now you're done with all of your data gathering and have all the recordings and notes in text form. So now you're ready to get into.
So I can't switch. Does it make sense? Not yet. Okay, so is there a Zoom link that you can send to me so I can present? Yeah, it's bit.ly dot final.
Journalism is basically like taking sources of truth and then serializing them into a digestible narrative. And I think as like a practicing journalist, I would like to be able to take claims I make in my document and link them back to the sources that substantiate those claims. And I think that would be helpful for both me and like my editors to see. So what we have is we can, if you've got like a text file, like this was the output of Whisper, you can load it in. And you've got the idea is that you've got your working draft going, and then you can like highlight snippets and then pull relevant material from your documents that substantiate your snippets to either add a quote or check your quotes and develop your story along the way. This can be really helpful when you've got a lot of different stuff, and I always have trouble keeping track of everything. Something we also thought of is that it's kind of helpful to take a step back and get a different perspective on the same source documents when you finish like a draft and want to see if you've missed anything. So like perhaps before taking it to your editor or pitching it, you might want to see like if AI can provide any insights on what you might have missed from the same documents. So we've got a prompt engineer to try to pull the best quotes from the transcript. One of the pieces of feedback we got that we might want to move this going forward is make this more of a chat interface rather than just like a single shot prompt. That's it.
Any questions for interview? Questions? Yeah, Max.
Yes. Yeah.
Could you walk through how the relevance? Thanks, so yeah. Could you walk through how the relevant source material works? Like, does it go through all the PDFs and links that you have used to report that story and then finds the selected text? Like again, if you walk through how it works here and how you would do this scenario.
It loads the documents into it first splits them and embeds them, and it's a vector store doing a similarity search on like the portion you're like highlighting. Any more? Thank you.
At my archive, Ali, Sasha Bizarrodex, is that your name? Bizarrodex? Other guys in here. All right.
So, first thing is that we talk on the initiative of the vision or something.
So we started from a common problem of journalists that follow like criminal cases. And the problem was that as a journalist, we collect a lot of card records, like thousands of PDF,
And every time to find an information in these documents, we have to read again every single page. And we try to use ChatGPT, and ChatGPT allow you to upload only 10 PDF, and it's not enough. We tried with another things, and it's called Dot, and it didn't work. So how I arrived and say, I can solve these problems. And my role in this team ended and started learning about.
Oh yeah, so the special case about the law PDF is that first the language that they use are different. So if you, yesterday we put them into a normal retriever, it wouldn't work very well. And the other thing is that if we want to write some journal or some statement about law or law-related news, we want it to be 100% correct, because if the result is here, we have to validate it, because if it's correct by some probability, then for some probability we get maybe we get sued for spreading the wrong serious news, right? Because this is why searching and returning the source and make the workflow return its reasoning structure is good for validating people, but it still has to be make good guesses, because if it takes longer for me to validate the news than reading the file, it wouldn't be very useful. Yeah, we did some RNG tweaking and agents, and we search for different way of defining how to serve relative content. So the one way is that we first solve this very specific entity, and then we can expand from the position in the document to change the way the RNG works, and then turns out that with some tweaking it worked. And then here's a demo, which is very primitive, that works in the iPad notebook. This notebook is on GitHub already, so you could clone this and have it play on your own computer. This works. Oh yeah, sure. This works purely offline. So yeah, I hope I forgot to type the query, but
So we uploaded like dozens of court records about a sue against Kim Kardashian, and Check My Archive answered that Kim Kardashian was not guilty, so it worked.
oh, yeah.
The question. Okay, next is Medusae. Yes, sorry. Looks like Medusa to me. I guess too much Greek mythology.
Yeah.
6, Daniel, Sabina, June, Ben, Sino.
All right, while that is getting put on the screen, I can just get going. I'm Danielle of Medius AI, and here's the rest of our awesome team. There you go, Medius AI. So we worked on medium translation for journalists. Next slide. So the problem that we were trying to solve this weekend was that if you are a journalist, you work really, really hard on gathering sources and writing an article, but in order to reach the widest audience, you need to translate that article and that reporting into a lot of different formats and a lot of different platforms. So this tool is meant to expedite that.
So we also learned that the average US adult spends 2 hours and 23 minutes on social media every day. And if you are a Gen Z female, that's closer to 3 hours. 50% of US adults are getting their news from social media. And also 32% of 18 to 29-year-olds are getting their news from TikTok. So a lot of news consumption is happening off of news outlets. We took a look at what that kind of looks like right now. These are examples from WAPO. So you can see their Instagram grid, you can see their X feed, and you can see some reels of how they are translating their articles and their content into these platforms. And also how people are typically doing it today. It's pretty manual. We looked at a lot of the resources that would help you out, and honestly, they were just pretty lacking. So our solution, pretty much you take your article and then you're gonna output one of these really awesome platform and posts. And for that, I will hand it over. Oh, sorry, one more thing. So there's a few things to call out. Each organization is going to have different AI governance rules when they think it's appropriate to use AI and when they don't. Likewise, human judgment is always going to be necessary. You should take a look at what it outputs and make sure that that's still accurate and true. And another thing that we realized and considered is that each outlet could potentially have a model trained to better mimic their tone of voice, their branding guidelines, etc. All right, and now I'm going to 6.
So I'm gonna take you to the prototype that we worked on. So this is kind of like your standard GPT platform, but you can upload a prompt as well as whatever media you already have. Whether that's, images, an article, whatever else. So for this, we have an article. And we uploaded that. Okay, so yeah, it's uploaded. We skip to the end here. And in that short amount of time, it generated these Instagram stories, posts, and a reel, all of which you can download. And there's something more than that.
And also for the technical demo, what we have built so far is that we've used a Streamlit. Basically, we have some app where you could post the entire text of the article. And what we'll do is that it will generate, it will like fetch from Unsplash all the corresponding images that they find most relevant for the summarized article and find the caption, find the section of the article that's most meaningful. So what it will do is it will generate these things that you see in Instagram carousels where you have all these images and they have the text associated that summarizes the article.
Amazing. Could you navigate back to do we have the video? Oh, yeah, perfect, yeah. So this is an example of an AI generated news TikTok.
Yeah.
Do you just do the reshare your screen? Oh,
Just 1 second. Okay, we may not be able to get it up.
The event disrupted daily
presentation, even just the screenshot will suffice. Oh, okay, yeah, but I guess one thing I want to point out about both the stories using generative AI images and the TikTok, which unfortunately we couldn't show you, but come by our station and we can show you after if you want to see it, is what are the dangers of having like news stories about real people in real places, having the background images be sort of these cartoonish, generated, uncanny valley depictions of reality. I think if we like scale that up, it could have some troubling effects on how we perceive the world, because we're learning about real people and things happen to real people, but the background assets are sort of like these strange, non-realistic or semi-realistic things. So I think that's a question to think about is what are the dangers of using generative AI as assets in these sorts of medium translation tools. But thank you so much, and thank you, yours.
Any questions for the media team? Questions, anybody? Next up is prompts and provenance. While they're setting up, how many people, I'm curious, how many people for you, is this your first ever hackathon-like thing? Raise your hand. Awesome, okay, yeah, great. Great to see you all. How many is this your like fifth hackathon? Okay, decent amount too. Guys, getting ready there.
Sorry, we're getting set up on the Zoom right now.
Okay. Prompts and provenance with Judd, Virginia, Zach, Codingscape team. I should also say a big thanks to Codingscape for supporting the event. Yes, thank you. For stepping into Elephant's code and helping fund our nice snacks and everything too. Thank you very much. Take it away.
Thank you, and thank you to Codingscape, our lovely sponsors. Yeah, that was a great segue of thinking about the potential erasure of locality and the images that sort of permeate the web. Our project is prompts and provenance, where we're investigating what happens when we allow the global north, the over-indexed representations of the global north within open source data sets to represent smaller localities. Here we are looking at a visual of the UNESCO heritage site in Morocco, where the GPT prompted image is rendering it looking more similar to a chart there in Paris and whatnot. So kind of getting into our getting into kind of our core audiences of who is using the technology. Some of the use cases are they're who cares about locality and sort of who cares about local representation in prompted places in text image models. There's sort of a subjective use case as well as an objective use case. Subjective being more, maybe creative professionals like film, the film industry or the advertising, as well as internet communities and local individuals that are, generating creative representations of a place that might not care for a degree of specificity. Whereas, there is sort of the untapped potential of the objective, built environment professionals, be it architects, planners, structural engineers, etc., sort of people who are trying to generate more accurate depictions of place for foreseen projects and whatnot. So remember to go over the tech stack.
Yeah, and we were looking into this particularly now with the view on text to image models and how we could modify and develop maybe a super prompt strategy. And we were looking into different ways how we could now enter this way of what do you actually have to achieve a more photorealistic image, but it's also not only photorealistic, but actually more accurate to its locality that you're trying to represent. And for this, we developed this overview. So what could you actually feed into the prompt, starting from more specific location data, maybe also geographic features, ethnographic features, meteorological data, so weather data. And then also we were considering what is actually happening in the layer in between. What is the system prompt that then actually also changes whatever you fed into the model? And how can you actually avoid that this might generate something dystopian or just really off? And we were looking into this now, particularly that's what we've built together, which we're really excited to present now. So we started building it with a large language model that we used from Hugging Face, the Lava model, which is an image to text model. We prompted in a location. Based on the location, we used the OpenStreetMaps API that then gave us several images. And then we prompted it again, exactly, you can see it. We pulled in all the images from the different perspectives and then asked it based on a prompt strategy that we developed and that then ran as a loop on top of it. We asked it to describe what it would actually see. So we used the vision model again, and then we developed a new prompt on top of this. The then was fed into the next model, that was then a generative model, to achieve a more accurate outcome that would relate more to the actual locality and an existing place. And we tested this several times for several other locations. So this is now referring to, and you can see the prompt that we've developed on the top, to achieve a more realistic outcome that also refers more to locality and like the weather, for example. So these are now some iterations. Here you can also see on the right, we tested it in another model as well. So not only the open source one on Hugging Face, but also Stable Diffusion Playground AI, where you can see that it actually, even though it's the same prompt, but it actually generates something very different that maybe like pulls more from science fiction movies. Yeah. And this is the last one. This is an example now from Iceland.
I think the main thing to call up, something to call up with the, some challenge that we're trying to still patch up within the model is, over indexing on terms like East Asian, that are kind of covering up, and still representing more of like the locality versus like the data that we're pulling to try and, counteract that, to generate more accurate depiction of the location and whatnot. And yeah, I mean, we can kind of like skip this, but we just have like a model of like how you essentially would interact with it and how potentially users would like go through the process of amending their prompts and whatnot. And amending their prompts and then maybe having a degree of accuracy and being able to adjust what images like they're prompting, as well as like the freedom to select new locations, and then even change like to see where like things like Google Street View are pulling in reference images and whatnot, and to amend them based on that to get to a more geo accurate location. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Everybody has questions. We're all kind of tired at the end.
Oh, yes.
They do have questions. Yeah.
If you think about going from image to maybe add representations, and things like that. Yeah, very accurate also.
I mean, that's a possibility, but actually drawing from 3D data from a lot of locations also doesn't necessarily exist. So we were thinking that there are various other data sets that we could potentially use as an iteration that could work with this as well. We're also thinking of using maybe maps or satellite data that could maybe help them to construct a more realistic, generative image. No.
This one GitHub or somewhere, do you want to play around with it in public, or is it still?
Well, we have one local model that runs on Eric's laptop.
So the classic, it works on my machine, all my software that's out there. They are now in ownership of it. Have fun.
Hopefully, we can hopefully release this interface soon, so hopefully then. Yeah.
Cool. What's that? It was Poststone Me, Social Media Tree of Life, Gino, who changed their name. I saw the name was something different just a short while ago. You shifted up the name. Tan, Alex, Alec, Han, David, Ori.
So we're now Poststone, and it's the social media genome mapper. And the idea is like, you have all this social media inundation. The question is, how do you tame all that? Like lawyers can do that with cool legal AIs. How do journalists do it? And we come up with a solution that's kind of condensing all that stuff into narratives, or like stories that you can tell, as opposed to just like a flurry of tweets. And so we have a demo of that I want to show.
It's a little bit work in progress, but basically you can put in like specific people's handles. So in this case, we picked Elon Musk and Sam Altman, and we were like, we want to know about space. And we're still kind of experimenting with the prompt. We wish we had more time to actually get something more legible. But it basically pulls their most relevant tweets around like the category or the category of interest that you have. So in this case, space. And you can sort of just learn from what they were posting, which might be relevant for a journalist who, you remembered seeing something, you want to find that source, you can kind of quickly go through these archives of tweets. So I can run like another one. So maybe I want to do tech. It's a little slow, but it'll find the tweets that they might have posted that are relevant to that category. It does take a second.
And so on the back end, this is just taking all the tweets, putting them into a vector store, and then retrieving them based on similarity to query.
And also, you might notice the format's kind of different on this one. That's because we're still kind of experimenting with, we use Mistral 7B from Hugging Face, and we're kind of playing around with the model and different prompts that we can use.
Any questions?
Any questions? Thank you. So right now it's just tweets. We would love to add the other things, and we sort of we hit the API for the limit we got and just embedded that data. I think ideally you could just put in any tag you want. It pulls the relevant people, embeds that on the spot, and then queries it. But X or Twitter is not so friendly. And not just sheep, yes.
Just the direct posts by these people are also shared.
Yeah, currently it's just direct posts by them, but I think it'd be really cool. I think one of the ideas we had to expand was like create like a knowledge graph that shows the sort of the interactions between accounts. I mean, I think we have like a semi idea. This is like an idea how it would look maybe, which might relate to if you had like other replies and stuff like that. All right, thank you guys.
Let's have a source detector. Source detector. Back to Carlos.
Oh, okay.
I have to go to Zoom and share the screen to Zoom. Yeah. You don't have Zoom on the laptop? Yeah. Yeah, I'm gonna skip them now. You guys get, okay, so now, well, they figured that out. Actually, can we have the thishatbetterwork.com, ironically, is the next one. Thishatbetterwork.com, doing okay, bot.com, Noor, Jimmy. Hey.
Okay, we were horribly undisciplined in documentation, and so we had no slides. We just have a live demo. But we also did not want to leave any trace of how we developed artificial general intelligence, just in case we did. So we're just thinking about this. We solved a similar problem, or tried to see if it was possible to solve as a couple of other teams, which is given a corpus, like a thesis and supporting material, is it possible to correlate, every sentence in the thesis with some supporting material, either in like the documentation, the interviews, or go out to the internet to find a source for it. And our answer is mostly it's possible, and we'll show you. But to walk you through the process a little bit before Nora does a live demo for us, I'll share that we started off seeing if we could use ChatGPT for this, because we wanted to use something that was available to everybody here. And we start off with GPT 3.5, and it did not work very well at all. So we gave it a little bit more money, and we went to GPT 4, and it still didn't really work. And then we tried it with a custom GPT, and gave it a little bit more money. And finally, on the Teams account, we had enough context, we had enough tokens we could pass in for it to start working. So at that point, we were able to discovered a couple of learnings we want to share with you. One, not scientific, but we believe that if you give a custom GPT a title that is too encouraging, it won't do its job. So we started off calling it, this is better work.
No, it was Fact Finder.
It was Fact Finder and it was horrible. Yes, and it actually improved once we started calling it, this is better work. We think that is causation. We also noticed something very strange, which is maybe there was an upgrade last night or something, but we uploaded PDFs yesterday and a lot of the prompts we were using yesterday did not work as we thought they would. The questions we were asking, like, hey, how old is this person? We knew that was in the documentation. And this morning it didn't start working. So either OpenAI is like doing extra passes of documents that are uploaded to custom GPTs over time, or there was an upgrade or something, but something absolutely changed. It was kind of a non-deterministic result that was quite surprising. So best I can say is don't give up on your custom GPT day one. Go to sleep, check it in the morning, and then you can give it a better name like you'redoingokbot.com, which is what we ended up with. So I'll go ahead and let Nor do the live demo here. What question are we asking first?
How old is Vatar? Okay, so I'm gonna ask it, how old is Vatar? He's one of the characters in my article. So it's hopefully gonna check. And it did check. So in the interview, he just mentions his date of birth, which now everybody knows in case you need to know his social security. And it calculated his age. Now if I give, like, if I'm, the thing is that we have it check our documents, our uploaded documents first, but then if it does not find that information there, then it can also check the web because some of my information was from both. So I'm gonna demo one information that is actually from the web. So because it checked the documents first, it says that it cannot find it in the documents. Well, that's elaborate.
We gotta change his name back.
Yeah. Woo. Got it. And now it did it just fine, and it gave me the source because we also asked it to also always give us the source where that information was from. Do you want me to also demo, like, is it gonna correct something for me if I give it all information, or is that enough?
Probably enough. We can
That works, kind of.
Anybody?
Question.
Yes, Alex.
What's the magic you have to do? Like, what, like, of course, basically, they, fine tune, LLM, which is, magic, but like, do you have to do beyond that? Like,
Yeah, there was I think the most work we put into it besides what I described was on the actual like system prompt for the custom GPT. We had to do a lot of iterations on that. We had to instruct it that it could not make up information, that it, always had to check the documentation first. And it was a little tough getting that prompt just right so that it would do like what it was supposed to and not make things up and not be too descriptive.
Alex.
Can it tell you where in your documentation the facts are, so you can check it with the tracker?
So that's one of the things that that's one of the things that it, like when we tested it out, it's doing okay and not okay. Like it will tell you the documents, but sometimes it confuses the documents together. So in some instances, it was like, this is available in this document, but it was not available in that document. Yeah, but but that was for like complex paragraphs. If you give it like just one quote or one statement and ask it, where is that? It will pinpoint where that is. But because we tried to test it, like, what if I uploaded my entire thesis? And I was like, fact check, like every single statement in this. It was a little more complicated for it. Anyone else?
Thank you very
Oh, I
much.
think
Thank
somebody
you.
had a question.
You all set? Okay.
Hey, we're back. We are Source Detector. I'm Carla, Beth, and Carlos. And what we try to create is a model designed to analyze bias and news sources. And you may be wondering why we try to do this, because the people that tell the stories are really important, and the bias in the sources are a real thing in most of the news outlets. And there's a story behind that, and Beth is going to tell us.
Yeah, so I come from the story on Afghanistan, where I worked for 15 years, more or less from human to human, interviews, and a very diverse set of sources that created a story that drifted away from the war on terror, basically, so that American narrative after 9/11. That left, I left Afghanistan with a bit of concern, and since then I'm diving into like who is allowed to speak in the West about Afghanistan to begin with, and maybe later on also other wars. This is one example. At my university in Paris, we did a simple search in the 4 biggest media, agenda setting media, whatever you like to call it, for the word terrorist camp, because I just discovered that the Americans had bombed the biggest Al-Qaeda camp in Afghanistan, in southern Afghanistan, based on the wrong information. But that you would not find in the Washington Post, who quoted only the American general. And so we did a little investigation. This was basically the start in 2018, I think, from my like diving into this world. And I hear more and more like maybe an AI can help us as journalists. But we worked on this for 2 days. And yeah, so we did a little test with the chat GPT, if you might go back. And the first thing, I don't know, I don't want to make big comments, but I think ChatGPT is also quite Western. For example, I wanted to do a quick analysis on the coverage on the current war between Israel and Palestine, and that didn't bring me very far because the word Hamas is in there. And this is also from my time before, but the Taliban, I did a book on the Taliban. It was always very difficult to get American sources with that word in it in the beginning of the war on terror. And we see it now here with the word Russian, also with the word Hamas. We see also that if my Afghan friends in Kabul who work at universities, who are in technology companies whatsoever, want to help ChatGPT with also educating and training it, they can't, because it's not accessible. So that is, I think, important to realize. Also, we as a group of freelancers discovered quite some suppressed knowledges or forgotten narratives by the sort of Western gatherers of information. I asked GTP, do you know about 2 of these stories? Was there peace between the Taliban and Karzai, the president, in 2001? There was, but not in the Western media. Or how is the relationship between Al-Qaeda and the Taliban? We figured out that that was a very problematic relationship in the field. But if you ask here, it is a very close relationship. Oh, sorry, that was it.
So we talked a little bit about the problem, and then we're gonna present our solution. So this is sort detector. If we look at the architecture, what it does is basically we request the user to give us a topic is interested in. In this case, it's a conflict, it's Afghanistan, and we want to evaluate how much relevance each of the sites has in the news talking about this topic. So we came up with a topic model that is available in Hugging Face now that retrieves articles about a specific conflict. We are currently using OpenAI for identifying the quotes in these articles. We got an accuracy of around 85%. So we can probably beat this with a fine-tuning model, but we skip this part. And what we do with the sources is some analysis on it, like from which country are they, which position in the text they appear, what are they talking about. Finally, we aggregate all this information and display it in a dashboard. So very quickly, this is the tools we have used. And if we go to the demo time, we didn't have one just ready. But everything is public now, the model, the topic, the data sets, the code, and we wanted to present how it looks. So that's the one on top is the kind of the input, that's the one given article. The next one is what we are getting. This is the sources, what they're talking about. And then the next one is the one of the potential analysis, like this. So where are these sources coming from in terms of countries? And for each country, what's the percentage of the sources in the article? So we think that's one of the potential outputs we can get, but there are many different, like what are each of the countries talking about, or what about the sentiment analysis. So we think it's a very, very exciting like development. So yeah, that's it.
Questions? Journo Genius, the genius of this. Dennis Gonzalez, Eric Gaucho, Mina Mitieva, Matthias Pina, Victoria Elliott, a lot of names, Delphina, Melanie Evans, Alex. Okay. You're not out there, your name is on.
But I didn't help.
Zoom, you have to join the Zoom link. Okay, good, share screen.
Okay, so a little bit about our like the idea behind our concept. So we're essentially creating a tool for journalists to help them with their research. We have a journalist on our team that is often working on medical reports and research papers. So we were looking at very highly technical academic platforms and things like that. So something like this would essentially, based on the parameters that you're looking for, which oftentimes is pretty common, no matter what topic you're working on, even if it is medical or not. You pick the parameters and then it would give you a summary that is essentially tailored to what it is that you're looking for. So here I'm going to guide you guys through basically the user interface of what we hope would look like after obviously more prototyping and testing, but this is essentially more of like what we have functioning right now, but also what we envision for this tool. So you would drag and drop the file over here in the center, and then it would load on. And this is essentially the part where you pick your parameters. So we took a use case of a medical research paper, and you would often look at the dates covered, the type of study it is, the list of section key references and sample size, etc. And then here's a unique, element where you also add your literacy level of your knowledge on this topic or research paper at the current moment, so that then when you get your revised abstract, which is this one, it is essentially tailored to your current knowledge of the topic. On the right side, you also see the newsworthiness scale. So we also added an element where the AI essentially is ranking to see how newsworthy it believes this source to be. And then that would be a rank on the right. And you can also expand the revised abstract for you to see the general text of what that source offers for you. Again, depending on the parameters that you've chosen and what it is that you're actually looking for. And if you read through all of that and you still have a question about the source or what it is the information it's proposing, maybe you have a question about a term or a certain context, then you can obviously use the search option, and here we used GPT for that, right? So, yeah, and also one feature is that it would be cool to have a profile so that you can save your parameters, and yeah, just allows the AI also, I guess, collect data on you, but anyway, you know, this is a concept. Yeah, it's a concept. And yeah, so now we're gonna run through the prototype.
Yeah, we're gonna do a very quick explanation of how it works. So using this specific paper that we are taking a look, we run it through a process where we wrap the PDF, turn it into a TXT file, then we read that. And using here an input of the literacy level, we are able to get a final output. In this case, we generated 2 different outputs, both in different levels of literacy that I think you should be able to see here, where the explanations are different. Both of them explain the same concept, the same topics, but in different language, depending on how knowledgeable you are of the specific topic that is being covered in the paper. And at the end, based on the inputs from the journalists that we were collaborating with, we acquired certain criteria to determine what makes a paper newsworthy or not. And we asked, in this case, as I mentioned ChatGPT, to rank these different attributes and at the end give us a value to see if this paper is or isn't newsworthy. Thank you.
Thank you.
Question.
Oh.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we so what we did is we actually discussed it, so we came up with that at the very end. We just used it, like, we were like, okay, what would be newsworthy? Like, what kind of questions my editor be asking me? We kind of threw those in there. We did not do much testing on this, so we just fed the list into
yeah, the OpenAI.
GPT-4, and it just churned out a ranking of 0 to 1. So we haven't actually checked.
Like, what was that question, for example?
Like, is this a novel discovery? Right, like, so it's really like, see, what were a couple of the others?
Yeah, I think let me find the proper list. But
There we
it's
go.
like
The
the population that impacts.
Yeah, is this like, does this matter to a large number of people? Findings can directly inform public policy or involve existing laws and, laws and policy. Does this expose harmful practice? Identify helpful practice? Help explain previously poorly understood phenomena, random, not random, so sorry, that was not, yes, the opposite of random. But just like a quick list of things we thought like, this might cross my threshold, and we just threw them in there, tossed it into GPT-4, and then it spit out either a 1 for yes or a 0.
10, from 1 to 10.
Yes, but each individual one.
Yes.
Yeah. Each one was either a 1 or a 0.
Yeah.
So that's one approach. Yeah.
Thank you. Data trend AI, Elliott, member, Marine Prince.
So my partner had to leave, so I'm doing it for both of us. So for data trend AI, we were thinking a lot about the semantics of reporting and what does it look like to look into the topic of semantics of war, as we are currently witnessing so much happening in the world. And we didn't want to necessarily make we use ChatGPT, but we didn't want to for it to synthesize information. We didn't think that it had that actual power after testing it out. So we wanted to focus more on the data sets, on a data set and how it could read a data set and the different trends that it could extrapolate from it. So kind of like the use is to leverage the pattern recognition and text analysis capabilities in these LLM models to particularly enhance the way that we see bias in different news sources or even in the articles that people are publishing themselves. And so we looked at 2 case studies. This one, someone actually did exactly what we did, but just on their own. And so the chart on the left is an actual study done over a couple of years, and the chart on the right, which is not super visible, but that one was done by a particular person who wrote an article, and he himself just carried out the experiment for a whole week where he asked different prompts to ChatGPT on the general bias between like Israel and Palestine war right now. And so we looked at case study number 2, where The Intercept did also like a data analysis on sentences, headlines, and like general summaries of articles related to Israel and Palestine. So based on these kind of criterias, we came up with our own data set where, well, actually, so the use case, to identify trends, to adjust trends based on personal input. And if the person doesn't have any personal input, using ChatGPT to identify those trends themselves. Which ChatGPT is pretty good at. So the data set that we gathered was 60 articles, and each of them were from 20 from New York Times, 20 from Al Jazeera, and 20 from Associated Press from April 5th to April 7th today. And so we put those in the JSON file, and I got ChatGPT to do kind of like a trend analysis on it. So I hope you guys see that properly. So I'd ask you, what words are you filtering for? And right now I'm looking particularly for Gaza, and what trends am I looking for? I'm going to look for food. I also added humanitarian aid, water, and then hospitals, just because I only want articles that have headlines surrounding those particular topics instead of having to parse through a large set of data. And it's going to take a moment to. Okay, so this is the output that we got, which I thought was pretty good based on the different tests that we ran. I think that we do have a lot more room to test different prompts, particularly prompts that probe ChatGPT to decenter like a Western perspective, particularly because a lot of the prompt generations and outputs that ChatGPT has is centering a set of interests that are not centered to either Israel or Palestine. And not just in this case, but in general use cases, ChatGPT does have a very Western lens. And that's one of the biggest takeaways from this like particular project. Sorry. So yeah, so main takeaways are focusing on carrying only using AI to carry very functional tasks and not synthesizing information unless we know that the data sets are actually taking into account multiple worldviews. One of the main concerns for me are the conceptual maps and kind of like historical frameworks that are being assumed in that ChatGPT knows about, whose stories are actually being taken into account and whose interests are being centered. It feels like these are only taking into account historical kind of precedents that the United States seems as valid. So these kind of models do have very big limitations, and yeah, thank you.
Final stretch. Local government meetings.
Okay.
Justin Hendricks, Chris Wiggins, Kevin Nudie, Paul Silva, Adam Bosberg, Matt Simon, Thomas Lee Carroll.
Come on up, everybody. Come on up.
Stand behind your back.
All right. We were Justin, Chris, Kevin, Nicole, Adam, Matt, Thomas, Carol, Laura, and me, Max. We were looking into tools to look for themes in documents, transcripts, and other artifacts from school boards and other local government meetings. So a little bit of context. There is an overload or an overload, depending on what you prompt it with, public meetings that happen every day within the United States. There are thousands of documents from school boards and other local government bodies, very few transcripts, video, audio recording from public meetings. And it's so difficult to be able to find newsworthy topics for local reporters who are trying to understand how local government works. So we wanted to look into ways that we could make all of this media searchable. acquire a corpus of different documents, PDFs and things like that, and start to think about how to extract insights from them. So we broke it out into 4 stages. Step 1 was to scrape and pull in lots of data. Number 2 is to start to search for regular expressions and start to try to train an LLM to extract quotes. We're going to be building, trying to build some sort of mega document, a bibliography for all of the information that's coming in. And most importantly, we need to do active journalism and report out. So these are things that are difficult for a large language model or any sort of AI system to do, but which requires the process and practice of journalism to find the good stuff. So I'm going to pass it over to share some of the challenges that we ran into before going into the LLM, and then afterwards, and then we'll talk a little bit about what we came up with as a result. And that's over to you guys. Sure.
Yeah, so the first challenge is sort of getting the data in the first place. We have a separate slide for that, but then after that, we putting it into the LLM. We didn't quite get it working all the way, but we had things along the way. So you can go ahead. For the LLM, the biggest thing was just running into rate limits and running into max tokens. So we spent a lot of time trying to then chunk it up into smaller bits and get some insight out of that. If you go to the next. So for the meeting minutes, so I specifically worked on school board documents. And sort of the best case scenario was that like PDFs were available on a website maintained by the school board that we could grab PDFs for, turn them into text. The worst case is that they were on a service called Board Docs, which is all hidden behind a bunch of JavaScript. We couldn't scrape it very easily, although Leo did kind of come up with a process that mostly worked, and you got one as well. But we did find that that those websites are crawled by Google. So if we search specific phrases, we could find certain documents with keywords like CRT and download them that way. So you're able to find our data that way. For the LLM, we then tried to like kind of feed it all into there and then ask some questions, but we ran into limits. So what we then tried was to summarize the contents of each of the minutes and then to sort of summarize that summarization. And we mostly got there. The thing is, we couldn't get it to work with any of the open source models, but we tried Claude, and thank you, Justin, for buying some credits for that. That like kind of worked, but the summaries weren't super good, and they just like kind of stopped mid-sentence a lot of the time. So here's some example of prompts. So the first prompt, read all these meeting minutes. What are some of the most important topics that arise out of them? The sort of response is sort of overly general, not very useful. It's also because this is a subset of 10 meeting minutes, right? Because we didn't have much time to train it. And then the next one asks for specific topics, but they didn't really show up in our documents. If you go to the next slide, there's 2 more examples that are sort of similar. Yeah.
So, Nicole, we can say with you for this part.
Right, so we took what we found there, and we came up with, here's some examples of stories we could, do with, pitch to our editor or go look into and see if there's more information.
And then this is just an invitation to be thinking about for all of us, all of these different local government websites, whether it's board docs, other local calendaring systems like the Wichita Public Schools system, Legistar for local government meetings here in New York City. There's 1,274 different committee and subcommittee meetings from last year for the New York City Council alone. Different community boards we looked at. Manhattan Community Board 1, for example, has really comprehensive records of meeting presentations and minutes. And others like Bronx Community Board 1 stopped in May of last year with no explanation. So lots of different varieties of availability and varieties of formats for the way that these documents are uploaded. Different types of PDFs with different formats that are all connected with the same meeting, but are speaking about different parts of that approach, whether it's the agenda, the minutes, presentations, and things like that. So we scraped, we pulled in all this stuff together. And one of the things that we're thinking a lot about now is, reporters and residents who are brand new to these community boards need to understand all of the different connections. And if you're a developer or a landlord, you're not just, beholden to one specific neighborhood. You are likely connected to a larger system within your city or county. And we also see a lot of opportunities to look into data around police accountability as well. We found some great examples of influence on local school boards and connections across different school districts. And we're really interested in seeing ways that RAGs can be devised and trained to look within larger data sets. I think eventually it would be wonderful to have something that goes, state down to county, down to city council and community boards, and it's all connected. And that's something that we'd love to keep learning about and keep working on. So thanks, everybody.
Thank you. Any questions?
The question was, would any of the models refuse to look into the materials because of the political nature of the topics? And no, thankfully, no.
We didn't run into that.
Yeah.
About how many of the meetings do you think journalists are actually going to?
In New York City, probably about 10 to 15%. There are 51 different community boards within New York City, dozens of meetings that are happening each week, and far too many local public meetings for any even collection of reporters to be going to regularly. And that's just New York City. There's all sorts of rural school board meetings, town council meetings, select board meetings that rarely, if ever, have reporters at them.
Thank you very much. The faculty manager is trying to get people to go to these meetings, right? It's true. Amazing, yes, human power to get volunteers to go to meetings all around the country. Amazing. Last but not least, a late entry. I saw you furiously typing as the presentation was going on. Yes, it is you, Marie. You not ready? Your last group tagging, yes. Jason, Ollie, Marie France. You guys.
It's off. We didn't actually come up with a name, so tagging it was because we're going to throw you with the world of tagging. Thank you very much. My name is Oliver Edgington from Telegraph in the UK. Jason over there is also from Telegraph, working in tech. Joining us is Marie France,
Journalist,
and also Mark blessed us with his presence. Thank you very much. Momentarily, but it was very welcome. Thank you. So tagging is quite a large part of what we do. At Telegraph, journalists have to tag their content, editors have to tag it as well. So if you are writing a sports article, you would need to tag it with sport. That's just so that you can surface that content in the sports channel. What we wanted to do was evolve tagging a little bit more, so that it wasn't just topics that we were categorizing our content with. Also, using the strengths of LLMs and their what we're calling them, emotional effects. Sorry, the effect analysis of what LLMs can give us. So we came up with 4 dimensions. So we've got feel, understand, conduct, and learn. So feel was something that invokes emotion in content. Understand is writing something that helps a reader understand what they're doing. Like a guide, yeah. Conduct is when you are asking a person to do something in their life to better how they help themselves and help others. And knowledge was the last one. So we went down 2 routes. One was a less technical route, and one was a more technical route. Thank you. And do you want to talk a little bit about your?
Sure, yes. So one venue was to investigate whether we could work with what we already have, which is the possibility of creating your own GPT. So semantic news uses language that's dense, but also very precise and action-oriented, repeating the JSON format at every return so that we can get, especially for field, create a set of scores in JSON format on 27 specific emotion categories as defined by Google's Go emotions: admiration, annoyance, approval, disgust, etc. Same for understand, evaluate how well the article facilitates the understanding of its topic. And so the GPT did deliver a pretty usable JSON object of affects like this. That was encouraging, but some of the results simply were too non-deterministic, therefore all over the place. And that led to a programmatic approach, which would allow for the handling of a lot more content.
And do you want to do a little work on your content?
Sure.
Right.
Yeah, no, that's fine. With these models, wanted to just quickly show you how I kind of thought we could use them both from a newsroom tool, but also how this information could be used with users' behavior, and how we could, harness that for recommendations. So this is brushing off my Figma core skills. Got a couple of bits that we will be done. So thank you. So this is how we could, matrix some of the information with some existing performance data. So sections is, creates a large part of the website, but a lot of the topics are kind of being folded in, so we can really see and get a little bit more rich information, as well as breaking down the know and the understand and the do or conduct and feel as well. And just adding a little bit more context, you could hover over business, for example, and it'll give you a few more related topics. And this is kind of like a second page where you really start to look at the user needs and the effect analysis. Again, thank you, Mark, for the on the right hand side there. We've kind of got like a graph here for approval and user needs. And also showing a bit of a disappointment as well in the top right. And then this is a kind of view of a particular article. So I've clicked through on an article to find out more information about how it's performing, but it's a deconstruction. And as you can see, like the effect analysis is in there, as well as the content type and the user needs. So that's kind of like from a journalist or newsroom point of view, we could harness this data. And then looking at the type of approach we would take for recommendations with all of this information, and by tracking the user data, how they're viewing the content, we could start to really matrix and create a dynamic page or hub for them. So this example is a non-news hub. We could automate the slots. You can see the second and the third day, you've got user 1 and user 2, quite different content they're reading. We're only able to do that through, this article deconstruction of the content. So that would, really, really improve the user experience and the product itself. And, digging into travel as well, see the same things. I'll be looking, user 1 has completely different output to user 2. And that's it. Thank you. Any questions?
Thanks. It seems like there's this incentivizing certain aspects that, especially for looking at the way I mean, it's only we have a strategy for how we incentivizing people, for example, to get like specifically out ways that might be, let's say, sort of like maybe just straightforwardly responding to the potential chaos and
Yes, good question. We also have been looking at this, even just from a topic point of view. We want to avoid creating an echo chamber. So you can imagine the same thing for affects as well. You don't want to create an echo chamber. We've been looking at how you can introduce diversity. So that would be something you would need to fine tune, I'd imagine, to ensure like a kind of interlist similarity, for example, is maintained throughout the model. So not only would they, slowly, it would go to the negative as they read. You could kind of reintroduce different affects and topics and content and all of the other article deconstruction techniques.
How would this ranking system work? Like, how would it know if someone
so and so, the technical.
Yeah, we kind of dreamt big. We probably need a kind of another model. So you would push all of this behavioral data and ask deconstruction through probably another model that would then rank the topics. It might need to be a kind of another model for grouping some of the more specific secondary topics together. Maybe I've kind of been thinking about this before. You know, it could create a kind of phrase on the fly. So you've kind of got, you know, Seville weekend guys. If you think about how Netflix kind of approach this, they do mix it with a lot of dynamic content. Top 10 most popular new drama, but then there'll be something quite specific, kind of categories quite specific. That's the kind of area I think that they're creating these kind of like tertiary topics on the fly, and we see a good opportunity for creating a product like that as well. Great, thank you. Thank you. We are bringing this event home, yes. I want to thank all of you for being here for all these days. Please give yourself a hand. Thank you very much. We're working together, trying out some stuff. We are doing little bugs and various things. I want to thank Codingscape for their sponsorship too. Jimmy and the guys over here in our job. Also Hugging Face for giving the credits and having Victor here to talk. You guys never made up gas as well. And I really want to thank Mark and the Brown Institute and Mark for bringing this home.
Hi. Awesome day this weekend. I'm so excited that, I mean, anyway, we haven't had a hackathon since pre-pandemic and I've kind of missed this, and this is just like beautiful. So thank you for spending so much time with us. Thank you for eating so much food. Like you clearly way over ordered. So, but anyway, I want to close this out with all of us getting to this side of the room so we can take a big picture. Can we do that? Like, let's go over to this side of the room. I would do that side, but it's all backlit. Come on now, here we go. Come on, here we go. Here we go. Don't be shy. People in the back. Now it's not fall. Oh yeah. No, I mean,
yeah, where from where? Maybe there. Where's our crew?
Mark, this might be harder than I thought. All right. Everybody on the deck.
Just like a picture.
Sorry, I'm always right.
Can you?
All right, so up we go, up we go. All right.
Wait, hold on. Let me try to get the. I want to put the thing in the background too. It's not. It's not giving me. Which one is it? A or E? E. It's E. Wait. Keep the screen. Keep the screen. I was gonna put the thing with the splash page. No. Ah. What?
Mark.
Oh, is it work? No.
All right, ready?
Yeah. Oh, sorry, is it not? Where is it?
She's taking a video.
Great.
Sure.
One third. Right.
All right, what are we doing?
I didn't post.
Okay.
All right, again, thank you so much. There's so much left. The winners take the cookies and you're all winners.
Mark, what's the after party?
Great job.
Yeah, thanks. I sent you an email. Awesome. Excellent. That's right.
Like, I thought the Moroccan really was crazy. Like, I'm sure there's like a ton of different.
Yeah, I'm sure you could write most of those. Yeah, like the same.
Oh, there you go. Good luck. I think it should be okay.
Yes, we do.
Good. Yeah, yeah, what was your there's like a crazy pipeline, but like a Google Street View API, that's a lot of. Yeah, but like, if you have a cool enough idea, you can always get it, like, text savvy, but like, buy it.
Hello, well done.
Hello. Yes. Did it make sense?
I'm happy that, yeah, we, like, this whole weekend was like, really amazing, just like, the whole time we're like, maybe, or like. Yes. Yes. Okay, good.
Yeah, well done. How did it feel? Giving it everything.
It was good. I've been working. I think in retrospect, I should have spent perhaps a little more time on like a lot of like the design. I don't think that it was like like wait on that. And I think we really wanted to escape from it.
Good to see you. Thank you. Yeah, we're excited. I'm talking with Lashar in a couple of weeks as well. So just want to see how we can be helpful in terms of thinking through this. There's like slate of publishers. How can we like prototype this on a small scale even potentially start whipping out applications and case studies, and the accountants should be thinking about it, because I'm nervous that the rate of adoption and pace is so slow in this sector on all things. But even in terms of getting your head around how to think about this, and if people can do these things, we get it. There's no reason that we shouldn't be starting to get further ahead.
Yeah, I should.
I was even shocked at South by Southwest. The Texas Tribune has told their newsroom that AI won't touch the jobs. And I'm like, you're perpetuating. Yeah. Like, and then we wonder why people don't want to, on the business and product side, work with reporters and journalists because they're literally getting told these things. And then there's a huge culture and change management. But I'm like, this is your responsibility. What the hell, you know?
Should we pay attention to what newsrooms are going outside the US?
Yeah, especially in Europe, Germany, and the Telegraph, yes.
They're like,
But isn't that the story always? And we don't do it. And
Mauritius is here, because I feel like they're being.
I know, me too. I haven't gone actually to Portugal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Figure out a way to go. I'm like, I have like serious FOMO.
I know,
Like,
I know.
it's gonna be good.
It is gonna be good.
Yeah.
Well, maybe we can think about a cohort of us, even as leaders that are excited about this, are open to it, because I'm nervous. I don't know if we're gonna meet this moment, and then other people will figure it out. Journalism's not gonna lead the charge on transformation at this point.
Yeah, well,
I was just speaking, I'm guest lecturing at NYU tomorrow, so for an investigative journalism, intro to journalism class, so I have a slide on the Times. To just be like, look, you have to realize that the Times has understood the bundle in a way that local and most of media is not understanding, even ProPublica understands. With their app, Discover, and the 909 thing, like, you have to understand that. I remember like, one of the founders of Deep Down Today thought that I was nuts for how much I paid for cooking subscription.
Because there's a lot of people.
It's like, yeah, I feel like games.
Yeah.
Only I can connect like with my 8-year-old child and my parents who look at their 70s.
People still doing Wordle every day.
Yeah.
And putting it on Facebook.
Track, you know, like.
Fascinating. Yeah, arts and culture, all of these things. The real estate section.
You gotta get involved with AI.
Okay.
So like.
Yeah, I would love to. Maybe we can just, because I'm starting to realize that there is maybe like 15 to 20 of us in the sector that have understood the business and operations side. But now I think if we can bring in more of the data science capacity and start to really use data and research as a starting point of conversation, and then get to a point of how we can help journalists and reporters understand if they're doing their job. Like we're fuzzy on what's the job and how do you measure if I'm doing my job. Found that research and data and then start to make product decisions and priorities from this. And then long term, not even long term, I think even in the short term, national philanthropy should commit in perpetuity to the investigative accountability function. And because why are we trying to have that money come local from local community foundations? Like the AJP model is so broken.
Yeah.
Which is why I left, because it's not, we're not getting at the heart of it.
Yeah. That's very interesting. We should, there is like an ONA, like AI collaborative.
Okay.
Which is very interesting.
Okay.
Join it.
Okay.
I think they have the next, meet, it's like on Zoom.
Okay. Okay.
It's like an hour commitment.
Okay, it's not bad at all. Okay.
And so there's like 200 people on it, and normally like, that's your, it's like.
Okay. I'll join that.
So you want to be a judge.
Okay, I'll join that. Because what I'm trying to think about, and this would resonate with you too, is how can we start to get it through operational transformation? It means these org charts are gonna look really different.
Yeah.
You have to break down these silos, you have to rethink the way you define your job. And I think tech and product is the most exciting function of then getting at the operational transformation.
It's gonna be, yeah, I'm excited about it, It's like, it really feels like that.
And
The early days of social media.
Exactly. I think it's more the early days of internet, and for people like us that are embracing it, what I'm trying to tell people is if you're outside of the sector, it's an interesting time to come in and start helping with this problem. But for people like us that are embracing the change, I just feel like career trajectory for the next 10 to 20 years is going to be a game changer. But selfishly, it's good for people like us who have the fact that most of the industry is not getting it. But why should we make them cry? They do it. And
There's always that, there's always there's someone a lot more resistant.
And I think the decline made the pocket of people that ended up staying within the ones that had the luxury of not innovating too much.
But I'm glad there's this many people willing to give up their weekend.
Oh, and so many non-journalists, which is really exciting.
Like I'm gonna be interacting way more with like
Which I think is gonna be fun, because I was starting to get bored.
Yeah.
Like, why would I stay in the sector if the rate of change and pace and like the hubris too?
Yeah.
Like we're saying democracy is dying. What we do, you know? So yeah, it's exciting. Good for you that you're having such a good, robust view of all the possibilities.
yeah, because I want to be, I'm actually about this stuff like 6 years, like, you know, I go to get, you know, with an assignment, all women, to be on my channel.
Huh.
That was like, that was actually really not.
Me too. This is more diverse than any room or meeting or conference in journalism I've been to. Like, even the topics of conversation, like different other
Actually, like I was surprised. The first year I was like, why are you all this person?
No, and that's so hard thing, and people so excited to show their projects, and like I said, the generational collaboration and disciplines, and it's like, this is what it should be, and it's so fun.
Yeah.
You're talking with other people, like, to see, like, a journalist, like, I don't know how to solve this problem, come help me, and then a technologist, like, is that, that's what it should be.
It's really great.
Yeah.
I'm checking it out the whole time.
But I'm glad you came, thank you. Okay, so we'll keep in touch, and I'll join that, monthly.
We have this, quarterly or monthly, like, meetup in person in New York City, that could be interesting too.
That's a good point. I'll tell Bert that maybe we should just start up a monthly meetup.
I'd like to keep like doing this work.
Bert, Rubina had an idea of like, maybe we could start a monthly meetup again. Or
I feel like
for the New York crew.
Yeah.
Hi.
That's many people to show up in New York, like.
Once a month.
Every single month, like, it's ridiculous.
Wow.
Like, it's just like.
That's such a good point though, because, yeah, but to be able to attract people from different disciplines, like we can get folks from finance to join, like, to think of a hackers-led monthly meetup on this topic. I know that's, but now is like, now we could redo it just in New York. Like,
No, and I like the topic thing is
Yeah.
good. It's just always, yeah, it gets to be a
We
lot
could
of
get
work when
different
it's like, oh, every month we gotta figure out what to do. But I think now,
Yeah.
another book again.
Too much material, yeah. But I'm even thinking we could go to like a girl pub and get them to sponsor one month. Like, someone, yeah. Yeah.
Data breaks here in the morning.
Yeah.
Sounds like an ambiguous model, and he's like, oh yeah, we have like a new headquarters in Grand Park. They're like, yes, we can do that. I'm like,
Let's do it. Because one of the things that we're talking about is like, we really want to be better economics. So how can we help publishers understand that there might be another provider other than if it's revenue hub or Newsback, and like if we could do these sort of monthly or open AI, right? Like, when I coach publishers, like that might not be the best go-to, like be agnostic. So we could get and then have meetups of different providers and different, like how, I'm still thinking about how coding space, right? Like they're just showing examples of just regular operation things that they're thinking, they're like, you're not gonna fight me about an SOW like, with AI, right? So, and then, yeah, we could be sort of this brain trust of bridging all of these different competencies and bringing people together.
Yeah. If you want something too much like every other, I really bet you
No, yeah.
a lot of people.
Now it's a different moment, like, and there's so much we want to talk about. Yeah, and it's a good amount of people in
I didn't realize Mark had done a hackathon.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Now you're in Columbia. Like I used to do an NYC event here, but it was literally like on the.
Oh my God.
Lecture hall, but they were just like.
And even NYU, I'm sure, like saying, Jay Rosen, CUNY would be great, and their location is so strategic. That's true.
I guess Jarvis is retired now. He was fine. Yeah, Jeremy's there. I know.
I know.
Yeah.
Well, maybe CUNY could be the next spot. If we do something. Good idea. I don't know. It's like one of those things where it's like, yeah, like restarting a monthly meetup.
I guess I killed off most of Meetup too as a platform.
Oh,
So
Meetup
like,
is like, Meetup is over. Oh my God. Wow. You still look delicious.
I'm trying to be good, Mark.
Okay.
I'm really good.
yeah, Meetup. So I do have the New York Meetup feed still, but it's got a lot of like, with a lot of people in there.
Clean up that list.
Yeah, it's good for a refresh.
I was kind of starting to try to rebuild a little bit like this event. Okay, so now we have more AI and stuff. We got South by Southwest. We got people there. Like I'm trying to like start new lists of people.
And I'm just so attracted to the people that are coming to this, like the energy in the room, the multiple disciplines, and saying how cool it is to hear a journalist be like, I don't know how to solve this problem, and then someone just comes and helps them. It's like modeling the way we're working within the organizations too. Yeah. And it's like the Telegraph thing, then like to your point, if we could get people from Europe to come and join us, then that's really exciting. Literally, I was blown away at South by Southwest with the German newsroom, and I was, yeah. They're like, oh.
Like, you know, yeah. We ahead of us.
Yeah, I almost felt like somewhere, I thought US was more risk taking, but it felt like the German.
Not at all.
The Germans, I think, and I think the public funding to fail, right? So they've got enough funding to take risks. But no, I think it's a mindset too. I think they're just much more into they have a tech CEO. That's like the CEO.
Democracy feels a little more imperiled in the US at this moment than it does in some of those other places.
Of course, Scandinavian countries compared to the pluralism and diversity that we have here to be.
Yeah, that too, yes.
I'm just bringing up the talking points of rebuttal that will.
It totally makes sense. I mean, but it's too very high stakes. Like, you know, if you're the Reuters Trust or the Washington Post, like you can't put out anything in the wild without being worried.
Exactly. The German newsroom talked about that. It's like they can make a mistake and retract it. But then my other rebuttal to the rebuttal is if New York City can figure out how to be neighbors and like live together, have some sort of shared facts, then we operate. Anyway.
Yeah. But New York City is the exception.
I know, but I used to. Yeah, I spent 7 years in Chicago after school, and it's very different.
Yeah. Anyway,
thank you for coming. Yeah. Yeah. I like your idea though about the monthly or some sort of recurring meetup of the people that are excited about this.
Totally, yeah, it'd be great. Again, I'll talk to you. I'll
Yes.
talk to you.
Yes.
I took a lot of notes. I'll send you the
Exactly, yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, but yeah, let's, I mean, I think, yeah, you could figure out something.
Yeah, yeah.
It's so fun.
Yeah.
Like if we could sponsor, I don't know, with something before O and A or
Make it much
jury.
more, I don't know, if you wanted to do much more like narrowly structured thing with like using a very specific model or very specific problem, be like, okay, you have like this amount of time to try to work on something, kind of come up with something.
Or building one of like Civic bureau type projects or something.
Yeah, yeah, right.
So they have
Okay.
And so there's probably a place to.
Okay. Yeah, no, we're happy to brainstorm because I think obviously like Bert's got the technical product, these hackathons, and then my focus is okay, now how do we think about this locally and for really resource impactful newsroom that don't even know how to define AI, let us think about prototyping products or the impact on operations. Okay.
Yeah, great job.
Thank you. All
Bert, thank you so much.
Thank you.
No,
Sorry, I had a brain. Right. I did not. No, it's fine. Yeah, it's I don't, it's been, yeah.
Yeah. Figure out. Oh, like, right.
I haven't.
Okay.
They're really so. But like, the set was like overall, I'm happy that. I'm really happy. Although there's something I can correct. And you're like, yeah, I was like, yeah. Like movie, yeah, and she was like, yo, dude, what's wrong with place? She was like, but I just kept, yeah, it was just a little terrible, and I just kept like, my friend, like, he like, my friend, like, her, and then, like, well, maybe it's like a weird thing. I don't know. I don't know. I saw the pizza like that. Like he had to do this like hands. So you live. No, I mean, I'm not trying to get the ball. Like,
Maybe I should stop the Zoom call, by the way, and the recording.
Oh, they so good. Okay, good, good. Totally. I'm gonna die.
Yeah, it's like it's like it just like starts like shredding on the like
they have videos and stuff?
No, it's just like the
Do you remember like advertising. Outside.
I love it.
No, I think I got it.
Yeah. I, there is already. All, like, yeah, like, already. Yes, on desktop. And it's, yeah, and then all. Yes, on the. That's great. I've got back. Keep it. And
Your hands in your wallet.
Yeah.
Okay, good, good. Go somewhere nice.
Have a good one.